Imagine, if you will, the earth trembling beneath pounding hooves, a sound like fate's own drumbeat, echoing through history. Yet, in that maelstrom, one man stood firm. A king, his gaze unwavering, rallied a desperate continent, and then silence. The terror receded, leaving behind a scarred earth, a victory born of dire need. That day, a collective breath was held, then slowly released. Europe had stared into the abyss and survived. But let us rewind, dear friend, to a time when our continent felt truly untethered, utterly vulnerable. Picture Europe then, a world teetering, fragile, its nascent kingdoms struggling to find their footing, their very soul. From the east, a shadow stretched, growing longer, darker, bringing a new kind of fear to every hearth. They came like a storm wind, nomadic warriors sweeping across the land, leaving only ashes and despair. Imagine that pervasive fear, an invisible cloak, suffocating, making every rustle of leaves a potential threat. Decades of lightning-fast destruction, unexpected raids, they struck with the suddenness of a thunderbolt. Monasteries, villages, nascent towns, all felt their fury, a precious heritage reduced to smoke and memory. Even the mightiest lords, behind their walls, felt a chilling helplessness against this relentless, unseen enemy. What if, my dear friend, the very idea of Europe, its soul, had simply succumbed to this terror? Those nascent kingdoms, those gentle cultures, were then but tender saplings in a harsh and unforgiving world. Yet, within that profound fear, a flicker of resilience remained, a quiet determination to simply endure. For nearly a century, they seemed an unstoppable tide, a force of nature, beyond any earthly challenge. Decades rolled by, each bringing renewed terror, renewed destruction, leaving communities scarred and heartbroken. Their arrows sang death, their horses carried them like specters, appearing and vanishing, leaving only grief. The prayers grew louder, the hope dwindled. Europe felt its very breath stolen, its future uncertain. But a central conflict was brewing, a collision course set for a time and place etched into destiny. And so, our story brings us to the year 955, a year that would decide everything. At a place called Lechfeld, fate awaited, a place where Europe would either rise or finally fall. Once, a grand empire stretched wide, its strength a comforting embrace. Time, like a river, erodes all. With its heart gone, a great quiet fell. A void opened, deep and unsettling, where order once stood. From this brokenness, new shapes began to form. In the east, brave souls sought to forge their own destiny. To the south, the echoes of old glory met new beginnings, a difficult birth in a land steeped in history. Westward, a nascent kingdom wrestled with its own shadows, a fractured realm yearning for a unifying light. Each tried to stand, to build something new, yet the ground beneath them always felt fragile, shifting. This was a time of small lights in vast darkness, a time when every border felt more like an open door. And then, from the distant east, a new whisper began to travel on the winds, a different kind of shadow. Far beyond the familiar woods, in lands most never saw, a people lived in harmony with the vast emptiness. They were children of the great steppes, their world defined by horizons, by wind, and by untamed freedom. Their homes were not rooted, but traveled with them, following the seasons, forever seeking new horizons. Their very being was intertwined with the horse, a bond deeper than words, a shared spirit of the wild. From childhood, the bow became an extension of their arm, the saddle their second home on the moving plains. They rode like the wind itself, a whirlwind of speed and deadly precision, a terror unseen by settled folk. Their arrows rained down like sudden hail, a storm of iron and fear, before disappearing as quickly as they came. Whispers of their arrival sent shivers through villages. A chilling reputation preceded them, carried on fearful winds. Then came the raids, a sudden burst of violence that shattered the quiet rhythms of life across the lands. Bavaria felt their wrath first, the familiar landscape forever changed by the lightning-fast terror that swept through. The fertile lands of Swabia, too, tasted the bitterness of their passing, leaving behind ashes and broken hearts. Even the north, far off Saxony, knew their hoofbeats. No corner felt truly safe from their sudden, swift approach. Their reach extended far beyond, a terrifying phantom striking deep into the very heart of the continent. Why were they so devastating? Our lands were broken, fragmented, like a house with many open doors. No single strong hand guided the whole. No unified shield stood ready to protect the people. Our old ways of war met a foe utterly new, swift as the wind, hard to grasp, impossible to pin down. More than just destruction, they sowed terror. The fear became a companion, always lurking in the shadows. They were the great dread, the primary shadow that loomed large over every waking moment. A profound, constant fear. It felt as though nothing could stop them. A creeping sense of helplessness settled over every community. But even in such darkness, a quiet resolve began to stir. A turning point awaited, though unknown then. For such a threat demanded something new, something unified, something strong. The continent would soon face a choice. This was Europe then, fractured and afraid, a landscape defined by shadows, waiting for a dawn or deeper night. Amidst ancient stones, a young king took his oath, a burden heavy for any soul. Yet, beyond those hallowed halls, his kingdom was a fractured thing, pulling in many directions. Dukes and princes, ever hungry for power, tested his young resolve, their ambitions a constant storm. He spent his early years mending divides, a careful hand navigating treacherous currents, forging peace. But beyond internal squabbles, a far darker shadow crept, a relentless terror from the eastern plains. They were the Magyars, riders of the storm, leaving only ashes and whispers of fear in their wake. Year after year, like a cruel harvest, their raids swept across the land, leaving sorrow. The sound of hooves became the heartbeat of terror, a constant, chilling rhythm in every village. Fields lay fallow, homes became graves, and hope dwindled with each passing fearful season. Even behind stout walls, the specter of their coming brought a deep, unsettling dread, a silent fear. This shared torment, this common enemy, whispered a truth. Only together could they stand firm. Otto, burdened by his crown, understood this dire need. His kingdom faced an existential threat. He patiently wove a tapestry of loyalty, binding fractious dukes, knowing division was peril itself. His quiet authority grew, a foundation of trust built on shared vulnerability, an urgent, collective purpose. He dreamt of a realm where fields could flourish, where laughter wasn't silenced by sudden fear. Perhaps he alone possessed the strength, the vision, to halt this relentless, terrifying tide of destruction. These riders, skilled and numerous, had terrorized Europe for generations, a shadow impossible to shake. Even the powerful felt helpless, their castles no true sanctuary from the omnipresent fear, the constant threat. But within Otto, a steel resolve began to harden, a quiet fire burning against the encroaching darkness. He knew fragmented strength was no strength at all against such a swift, united enemy. The weight of his people's suffering rested heavily upon his young, yet increasingly capable, shoulders. Whispers of a coming reckoning began to spread, a fateful moment approaching for their weary world. Europe's very destiny, its long-term survival, seemed to hang precariously in the balance. A fragile hope, he pledged his life, his very soul. To this cause, a profound, personal commitment to his people. No longer would they merely react. A new strategy, a proactive stance, was slowly taking shape. Through tireless effort, he began to forge a disciplined force, a shield against the coming storm. While his realm found a fragile peace within, the distant drumming of hooves still haunted their dreams. The stage was set, the players assembled. A monumental confrontation loomed on the horizon. This single, defining moment would determine his place in history, forever shaping his enduring legacy. And through his courage, the very course of Europe's unfolding story would be irrevocably altered. Far on the horizon, where sky met ancient lands, a shadow slowly began to gather. Whispers traveled on the wind, then galloped on weary horses, bringing tidings of unease. Maps unfolded, routes pondered. The world felt suddenly fragile, boundaries blurred by chilling dread. Fear, a cold visitor, settled in homes, tightening its grip with each passing, uncertain day. Reports grew stark, painting a picture of a horde unlike any known, truly immense. This was no mere raid, a gathering storm, a tide of warriors, vast and unrelenting. On the distant steppe, where earth met sky, a final, massive push was stirring. They moved with purpose, their collective will forged by hunger and promise of rich lands. Like an ancient river breaking its banks, the Magyar invasion of 955 began its flow then. Their speed was terrifying, a whirlwind of arrows and steel, leaving little time. The smoke, a grim messenger, whispered of distant tragedy, homes consumed by relentless flame, roads filled with refugees, fleeing terror, their eyes reflecting despair of shattered lives. Bavaria, once serene, now lay exposed. Its fertile heart opened to devastating tempest. Deeper and deeper they rode, an audacious thrust, pushing far beyond familiar territories. This was a gamble of immense proportions, a daring move into Europe's very core. Behind the fury lay profound desperation, a do-or-die moment for these nomadic warriors. Augsburg, a jewel of the realm, stood as a beacon of wealth, spires reaching towards God. Its sturdy walls, a testament to its prosperity, now seemed a tempting, vulnerable prize. Their eyes, sharp and keen, fixed on this city, the ultimate target for their hunger. Unaware of impending doom, life within Augsburg's walls continued its gentle, rhythmic dance. This was their all-in wager, a desperate throw for their very survival, a final dice roll. The sheer scale of this invasion dwarfed all previous incursions. It felt profoundly different. This was no routine plunder, an existential storm threatening to engulf everything. For Magyars, failure here meant end to their terror. The stakes were tragically absolute. In his own halls, King Otto faced shadows, rebellions gnawing at his kingdom's heart. Yet, even through din of internal strife, urgent pleas from Bavaria cut through. A cold dread began to settle. The gravity of the distant threat was finally understood. This was not mere attack, an existential threat to his very realm, his people. He faced an impossible choice: quell internal foes or confront looming external disaster. Some threats transcend all others. This moment demanded immediate, unified, and decisive action. Messengers rode like the wind, carrying the king's urgent call, summoning all to arms. From every corner, knights donned their armor, their faces grim, knowing the trials ahead. Farmers left fields, craftsmen tools, joining ranks, their hearts heavy but resolute. The path was long and arduous, a testament to the urgency and the vast distances. Gathering such a force was colossal, fraught with logistical challenges and weary delays. Different banners converged, diverse peoples united by a single, desperate, shared purpose. King Otto, himself, rode amongst them, a figure of strength, drawing hope. This was their decisive stand, a moment forged in desperation, a line drawn here. Towards Augsburg they marched, a solemn procession, carrying the fate of a continent. The air grew heavy with anticipation. A great reckoning awaited them on those plains. Duty called for sacrifice. Each man knew the profound weight of this singular moment. They were Europe's last hope, a bulwark against the encroaching tide of terror. Dark clouds gathered dramatically, mirroring the impending, terrifying clash on the plains. History held its breath. A defining chapter was about to be written in blood. The dust they left behind spoke volumes, a silent testament to terror. A chilling silence descended. Their path was marked by fire, an inferno consuming homes, hopes, and futures alike. Imagine the fear, the sudden flight, leaving everything behind, clutching only fragile life. They moved like a storm, swift and merciless, a plague of destruction across the land. Each passing day brought news of their relentless advance, a creeping dread into every heart. Homes turned to ash, lives shattered. The very air tasted of sorrow and silent despair. The woods offered scant refuge from their relentless hunting, from their insatiable hunger for havoc. The scars they left were not just on the land, they were etched deep into the souls. The rich Bavarian earth, once fertile, now lay barren, trampled, reflecting a deeper wound. And so, the relentless wave of destruction finally broke upon the walls of Augsburg. Inside, hope flickered, a fragile flame against the encroaching darkness, holding on to courage. The city's heartbeat quickened, a drum of defiance against the overwhelming forces arrayed outside. Their numbers seemed endless, a swirling tide of horsemen and crude, menacing war machines. Arrows rained down like deadly hail, a constant, chilling reminder of their desperate plight. Despair began to creep in, a silent invader threatening to extinguish their last resolve. The sounds of battle echoed through the streets, a haunting symphony of their impending doom. Food became scarce, water precious, hunger and fear gnawed at their very spirit. Prayer became their last refuge, a whisper against the roaring storm outside, seeking peace. Yet, a flicker of defiance remained, a refusal to surrender the city, their home. Far away, the news reached Otto, heavy with the urgency of Augsburg's dire predicament. He knew the stakes, the monumental task ahead. Unity was their only fragile hope. Across his realm, urgent messages flew, summoning his dukes, his diverse peoples, to war. The Bavarian heart, fiercely proud, answered his call, ready to defend their ancestral lands. From Swabia's ancient forests, loyal men gathered, their resolve as firm as their mountains. The Franks, steadfast and brave, answered, their heavy cavalry a formidable, unyielding force. Even the Bohemians, a people apart, pledged their strength, a diverse coalition forming. Imagine the challenge, uniting so many tongues, so many customs, under one sacred purpose. Otto's resolve was the linchpin, forging these disparate parts into a single, cohesive blade. Shared purpose began to bridge divides, small moments of understanding blooming amidst the fear. Under his banner, a testament to his vision, they would march, a united, desperate hope. And so, the great host began its march, a disciplined, unwavering force moving eastward. Each step was deliberate, a stark contrast to the chaotic, terrifying advance of the Magyars. The heavy cavalry, Otto's strength, rode with a quiet resolve, their mission clear. The foot soldiers, resilient and steadfast, knew the immense weight of their collective journey. This was not the terror they were accustomed to. This was measured, formidable, Christian might. Ahead of them, keen-eyed scouts rode, the eyes and ears of this slow, purposeful advance. Every whisper of information, every shadow, was vital intelligence in this deadly game. The miles melted away, but with each one, the gravity of their mission only grew. A quiet dread mingled with fierce determination. Augsburg's fate rested squarely on them. Nights were short, filled with quiet prayers, and the constant awareness of impending conflict. As the sun rose each morning, it illuminated faces set with an unyielding purpose. Then, on the horizon, a distant outline emerged. The desperate, besieged city of Augsburg. Hope surged, a desperate, powerful current, fueling their final, arduous steps. The weight of destiny hung heavy in the air. The confrontation at last was nigh. The sun barely kissed the horizon that August morning. A stillness before the storm, a breath held tight. Beneath that fragile peace, destiny stirred. Europe's fate, unknowingly, balanced on a knife's edge. King Otto's army, weary yet resolved, prepared for a day they could never forget or truly comprehend. But unseen, unheard, a different sort of movement began. The Magyars, poised for their deadly dance, the rear guard, often the most vulnerable, felt a strange chill. A premonition whispered on the wind. Then, silence shattered. A shower of arrows, like sudden hail, descended upon the unsuspecting rear. Chaos seized them. Panic, a swift and terrible enemy, began to ripple through the Christian ranks. Fear became a palpable thing, an unseen hand gripping hearts, threatening to break their spirit quickly. The disciplined lines, so carefully formed, fractured. The Magyars struck with ruthless, surprising efficiency. Their swift horse archers, a swirling tempest, overwhelmed the defenders. It was a brutal opening gambit. News traveled like wildfire. The main host turned, seeing the horror unfolding tragically behind them. A bitter taste of dread filled the air. The battle had begun, and it initially favored the invaders. But from the heart of the storm, a rock of will emerged. King Otto, unyielding, observed calmly. He knew this moment could break them or forge them anew. A leader's true, profound test. His voice, a beacon in the storm, cut through the din. He rallied their faltering courage, not a flicker of doubt. His resolve, a powerful current, flowed into every weary Christian soul, and they looked to him, their king. His presence alone was a profound promise of strength. He spoke of honor, of homeland, of a faith worth defending against this encroaching darkness. Slowly, miraculously, the tide of panic began to recede. A flicker of hope rekindled within. He didn't just command, he led. His own bravery, a living testament to their sacred cause. The broken fragments began to knit. Otto's will was a thread weaving them bravely together. This was not the end. This was the moment they chose to stand, to truly fight. Then the earth trembled. Otto's heavy cavalry, a disciplined iron fist, advanced steadily forward. Each horseman, a fortress of steel and spirit, riding into the maelstrom with grim purpose. Their formation, a living wall, stood against the swirling chaos of the Magyar archers. With a mighty roar, they charged. A thunderclap across the plains, a powerful force unleashed. The Magyars, quick and nimble, found themselves facing an immovable, irresistible, brutal power. Iron met flesh, steel met wood. The disciplined charge tore through their lighter, scattered ranks. Their fluid dance faltered. The cavalry's might forced them to yield precious, hard-won ground. The dust clouds swirled, obscuring all but the relentless forward press of Otto's valiant men. For the first time, doubt flickered in Magyar eyes. Their initial triumph turned to struggle. Hope, once a distant glimmer, now shone brighter. The tide was truly beginning to turn. But then, a fatal misstep. Greed, a silent predator, whispered its treacherous, tempting promise. Overconfident, they dismounted to loot. The spoils of war, a tempting, deadly distraction, consumed them. They dropped their bows, their agility lost. And in that moment, vulnerability blossomed. Tragically, the heavy cavalry, seizing the chance, crashed into their exposed, unready, scattered formations. The air became a symphony of steel and screams. No quarter given, no mercy found there. The earth drank blood, the sky echoed cries. A desperate struggle for survival unfolded. Their swiftness, once their greatest asset, became a burden in this tight, brutal embrace. And then, the snap. Their lines fractured, their spirit broken by the relentless Christian onslaught. They fled, a desperate, broken tide receding across the vast, fateful Lechfeld plain. Otto's men, fueled by vengeance and relief, pursued them relentlessly into the fading light. The plains, once alive with the roar of battle, now whispered tales of victory and loss. Europe had been saved. A hammer blow struck, echoing through the annals of enduring sacred time. The silence that follows such a tempest is often the most profound. A heavy, chilling quiet descended now. For the Magyar Horde, this was not merely a defeat, it was an annihilation, etched into the very earth. Thousands lay still, their fierce war cries forever silenced by the decisive German spears and blades. The sun, rising now, cast long shadows, revealing the full, heartbreaking horror of their losses. Every life lost here echoed a forgotten name, a family far away, unaware of their fate. For many, surrender brought no solace. Their journey's end awaited them not on the field, but in the harsh justice of that age, a darker fate often befell those who survived. Captured Magyars were systematically taken, their fighting spirit broken, their very existence now forfeit. Even the chieftains, their voices once thunderous, faced the executioner's swift, unforgiving blade. Few, if any, warriors would ever return home to speak of this profound, terrible disaster. The historical truth settled like dust. This victory was complete, a final, crushing blow. No messenger bore tidings of their fate. Just a chilling, enduring silence echoed across the land. As news slowly reached Augsburg, a profound, overwhelming wave of relief washed over them. It was a deep, collective sigh, the breath held for so long, finally released by every soul. From within the city walls, this great relief spread outwards, like ripples across a tranquil pond. The fear, the constant threat of the Magyar raiders, had at last been utterly, completely extinguished. And in that moment, Otto, the victor, the steadfast king, became their triumphant, living hero. His name echoed through the relieved populace, a beacon of hope, a symbol of their enduring strength. He had secured their future, saved their very way of life, with his courage and resolve. But the pursuit was not yet finished. No broken remnants would be allowed to escape. Local levies, their homes now safe, rose up, ensuring the complete elimination of any stragglers. Otto's army, though weary, diligently swept the land, leaving no stone unturned, no threat. The terror, which had gripped Europe for decades, was finally, irrevocably, brought to its end. Lechfeld's echo, a quiet whisper, marked a profound turning point. the world would never be quite the same. For nearly a century, Europe trembled. But after Lechfeld, those devastating Magyar raids finally ceased, bringing true peace. A terrifying chapter, almost 100 years long, closed its heavy book. A deep, collective sigh swept across the land. The Magyars, once riders of the wind, began to lay down their spears. A different path, uncertain yet hopeful. From the saddle to the soil, they chose roots. Building homes, cultivating land, a quiet, profound transformation began for them. Then, another shift, deep in their hearts. They embraced a new faith, changing their spirit, their very way of life. From scattered tribes, a nation was born. The Kingdom of Hungary, a new star in Europe's complex constellation. No longer outsiders, but participants. They found their place, woven into Europe's intricate tapestry, finally belonging, truly home. And for Otto, the victory was more than just a battle won. It solidified his authority, strong and unshakable. His name, once respected, now echoed with profound prestige. A true leader had emerged from the crucible of conflict. So, the whispers grew into a roar. He was not just Otto, but Otto the Great, a title earned through fire. This triumph at Lechfeld laid a path, sacred and grand, a road leading straight to the imperial crown, waiting. And so, the Holy Roman Empire began to unfurl its banners, a major political entity slowly rising in power. This was the heart of medieval Europe, a time of both darkness and dawning. A new order was now taking shape. Fragmented societies, weary from strife, could finally breathe. They began the slow, hopeful work of rebuilding their lives. Strength through unity, a quiet consolidation. Borders became clearer, allegiances firmer, a new foundation laid securely. With peace came prosperity, like gentle rain after a long drought. Societies could finally flourish, truly blossom. No longer the fear of distant hooves, no constant external threat. A precious quiet descended upon the land. From the shadow of constant fear to the dawning of quiet stability. A profound shift, a deep and lasting peace. Otto's leadership, a beacon in the storm, left a profound legacy. Its light touched generations, a quiet testament. And so, a new chapter for Europe truly began. A hopeful future, etched by valor on that fateful field. The slow, quiet work of building a civilization, brick by painstaking brick, a testament to enduring human resilience. The echoes of Lechfeld, subtle yet profound, continue to shape our world. A battle remembered, a future forged. The dust of Lechfeld settled, but its echoes carried far, shaping the very soul of a continent. This was not just a battle, it was a turning point, forging new pathways for medieval Europe. From chaos, a quiet stability emerged, allowing kingdoms to breathe, to build, to dream anew. With stability came growth, culture flourished, and the foundations of a new age were laid. This silent strength profoundly influenced Western civilization, guiding its unfolding story, its very destiny. The lasting impact is profound, a testament to courage, unity, and the human spirit's enduring light. We celebrate the resilience, the quiet determination that refused to yield, even against overwhelming odds, and the brilliant strategic ingenuity that turned the tide, saving countless lives and futures. In that fateful summer, a continent was saved, its diverse tapestry woven from threads of triumph. As our journey ends, remember these lessons, held close in the quiet chambers of history. If this story touched your heart, please consider leaving a like. It helps us greatly. For more epic historical deep dives, join our community. Subscribe to explore history together. Share your thoughts below. What resonated most? Your insights enrich our shared journey. And tell us, what other legendary last stands do you wish for us to uncover next?